The human soldier lay in the crater, half buried in ash and blood. Smoke rose from the ruins around him. His name was Mason. His ship had crashed 3 days ago. He hadn't seen another human since. The sky above him was dark red, and the wind carried the smell of fire and something worse. Fear. He coughed and tried to stand, but pain shot through his leg. He touched it and winced. Broken. He was alone on an alien planet with no food, no weapons, and no signal. All he had was his broken leg, a ripped uniform, and a weak signal from his translator. Then he heard the sound, soft footsteps. Not heavy. Boots. Lighter. Cautious. Something or someone was coming. He reached for a sharp rock nearby. If this was his end, he'd face it with something in his hand. But what stepped out from the smoke wasn't a beast. It was a girl. She was young. Alien, pale silver skin. Long dark hair with glowing blue streaks. Thin and barefoot, wearing torn fabric that looked like it had once been armor. Her eyes were large, glowing with violet light. She stared at him, confused, maybe scared. She didn't speak. She knelt beside him. He flinched, but she didn't hurt him. Instead, she offered him water, real water from a carved stone bottle. Her hands trembled as she held it out. Mason stared at her, unsure. Was this a trap? But his thirst won. He drank. She let him take small sips, watching closely, like she wasn't sure if she was doing it right. Then she gently wiped his face with a clean cloth. Her touch was soft, careful. You human? She asked, slowly, through a rough voice. Mason nodded. Yeah, you speak English? Little. Learned from dead ship. He swallowed. Where am I? She looked down. Ruins. War came here. You crash. I saw. Mason squinted. You saved me? She didn't answer. Just lowered her head. You got a name? She hesitated. Ro, he repeated. Why help me? Again silence. He noticed bruises on her arms, scratches, burn marks. Not fresh, not from battle. Who hurt you? He asked. She looked away. Mason leaned back, breathing slowly. Ro sat beside him and pulled out a bundle of roots and berries. She placed them in front of him and waited. You want me to eat? She nodded. You're not with the others? She shook her head. My sisters leave me, she whispered. Traded me for food. Mason stared. They sold you? She nodded. 3 days ago, humans came, gave rations, took one. Took me. I ran. Something inside Mason twisted. He wasn't sure if it was pity or rage. Maybe both. You escaped? Yes, found your crash. Followed. I stay. He looked around. Just the two of them. Alien girl. Broken man. Surrounded by ruins. She leaned close. You need me. I help. I serve. He frowned. No, I don't own you. She tilted her head, confused. But I serve. You are strong. You fell from sky. You live, you fight. I'm just a man. You are more, she whispered. Her hands moved carefully over his leg. She tore part of her sleeve and wrapped it tight to make a brace. Mason winced but nodded. She knew what she was doing. That night, she built a fire with dry roots. She wrapped her thin blanket around both of them. Mason didn't sleep much, but she stayed close, watching the darkness like a guardian. In the distance, the howls of beasts echoed through the forest. He whispered, You're not afraid? Afraid, she said softly, but not of them. Then, of what? She didn't answer. The next morning, Mason opened his eyes to find food already prepared, cooked roots, something sweet and clean water. She smiled and placed the meal before him, like it was sacred. He watched her. There was something strange about the way she acted. Like he wasn't just a wounded man. Like he was something divine. As the sun rose, painting the sky in orange and silver, Ro knelt beside him. I stay with you. Always, she said. Why? He asked again. She touched her heart. Because you did not trade me. You drank my water but did not command. You looked at me like I am alive. Mason had nothing to say. In war, people died every second. He had seen soldiers beg for mercy and be shot anyway. He had seen children cry in burned-out towns. But this girl, she had chosen him. For no reason he understood, yet he knew this. He wasn't going to abandon her. Not now. Not ever. Mason leaned against a stone wall as Ro tied together thick branches. She was building something, a sled maybe. Her fingers moved fast, twisting dried vines into knots. She barely looked up. You sure this will work? He asked. She nodded. It carry you? Not far, just a cave. Cave? Safe place. Hidden. He watched her. The way she moved had changed. She wasn't just helping him anymore. She was protecting him. Leading him. You don't have to do all this, Mason said. Ro didn't answer. She tightened the ropes and stood. The sled was finished. She knelt beside him and lifted his arm gently. Hold, I pull. Mason gritted his teeth as she helped him onto the sled. It hurt like hell, but he stayed quiet. She looked so serious. Like this was her mission. The journey was slow. Ro dragged the sled through burned grass and broken stones. Her bare feet left like prints in the dirt. Mason watched her small frame struggle against the weight, but she didn't stop. After 2 hours, they reached a narrow crack between 2 rocks. She disappeared inside, then returned and nodded. Safe. Inside the cave, it was cool and quiet. Ro had made a bed from leaves and cloth. She helped him lie down and covered him with a blanket. He looked at her. How did you learn all this? She paused. Before war, I study healing, plants, history. I was learning. And then the war came. She nodded. War takes everything. Home sisters. Name? He asked. But you said it was Ro. That is number, not name. My sisters. We were trained, numbered. I was last. Mason's stomach turned. They took your name from you? She looked at the cave wall, traded it, like food. He sat up slowly. Do you want a name, a real one? She turned to him, surprised. You give name? If you want. She thought for a long moment, then nodded once. Yes. He smiled a little. How about Lyra? It sounds soft like you. She repeated. The word, Lyra. He nodded. It suits you. For the first time, she smiled, truly smiled. Her sharp teeth showed just slightly, but it didn't scare him. It looked honest. Later that night, rain fell, hard. The cave kept them dry, but thunder rolled overhead. Lyra sat close, her arms around her knees. Mason leaned against the wall, watching the fire dance. You said your sisters left you, he said. Did they ever come looking? She shook her head. They said I was weak. I slowed them down. But you're not weak. I am now, she said quietly. Until you get better. Then, I will go. He looked at her. Go where? She lowered her head. I don't belong. He reached out, touched her hand. You saved me. You fed me. You protected me. You belong right here. She blinked. But I was trained to serve. Then maybe you should learn to live. She stared at him. Not as a slave, not as a servant, just as you, as Lyra. The fire cracked. The sound of rain softened. And Lyra moved closer. You say I am free? Yes, then. I choose to stay, with you, Mason nodded. Good, I'd like that. In the days that followed, they worked together. Lyra hunted small animals and gathered roots. Mason carved a cane from a thick branch and began to walk again. Slowly. One day, while searching for fresh water, Lyra froze. She raised her hand and pointed. Mason followed her eyes. Tracks. Heavy boots. More than one. Human. Someone else was here. Lyra dropped to the ground and touched the prints. 2 days old, soldiers. Maybe the same ones. Mason's breath caught. You mean the ones who traded for you? She nodded double quotes. Do you think they're still nearby? Maybe, but they look for rations, not survivors. Mason looked around. The trees were too quiet. The wind had stopped. He whispered, We need to hide. She grabbed his arm. No, we need to move. Where? I show you, deeper forest, my old den. Mason tightened the grip on his cane. Then lead the way. And without another word, Lyra took his hand, and they vanished into the trees. Lyra moved fast through the thick trees, but never let go of Mason's hand. Her grip was warm, strong. She didn't speak much, only looked over her shoulder to check if he was still close. Mason limped behind her, holding tight to his cane. His legs still ached, but he had grown stronger. Because of her, they crossed shallow streams and climbed over fallen trees. Birds flew overhead, strange colorful ones with eyes too smart for animals. Lyra noticed them too. Scouts, she whispered. Some species spy this way, maybe mercs, Mason frowned. You think they're hunting us? No, hunting anyone left alive. By midday, they reached a deep forest where sunlight barely touched the ground. Vines hung from twisted trees. Flowers glowed softly on thick branches. The air was cooler here, more still. Lyra knelt and pulled aside thick brush, revealing the mouth of a hidden burrow. Not too big, just wide enough to crawl through. This was yours? Mason asked. She nodded. Before they gave me up. I hid here many nights, safe, quiet, smells like me. They climbed inside. It was dark but dry, lined with soft leaves and hidden supplies. She had stored dried roots, crushed herbs, and tools made from bone. You were ready for this? Mason asked. I always knew, she said. One day, I would be alone. Mason sat down. You're not alone anymore. Lyra looked at him, eyes wide, glowing in the dark. Later that evening, Mason helped dig out more space in the burrow. He was surprised how fast Lyra worked. She didn't rest. She didn't complain. But when she sat down next to him and handed him food, her hands shook. You okay? He asked. She nodded quickly. Yes, Lyra. She didn't answer. He touched her wrist. You're scared. Her eyes filled with something he hadn't seen before. Shame, yes, she whispered. Because they might take you, Mason blinked. Who? The soldiers. Humans. If they find you, they'll take you back. Leave me behind again. He stared at her. You think I'd let them take me and leave you? She didn't answer. Lyra, he said, firm now. I don't care what planet we're on. I don't care who comes. I'm not leaving you. She stared at him like she didn't understand the words. You would choose me? Yes, she lowered her head. Then I will protect you. The next day, they heard the ship. A low humming sound, far away but growing closer. Mason crawled out of the burrow and looked through the trees. A small recon ship hovered in the sky, scanning. It circled once, then flew away. Mason turned to Lyra. They're searching. Yes, she said, but not for me, for you. Mason shook his head. They don't know I'm alive. They know now. They packed fast. Lyra crushed herbs and rubbed them on Mason's clothes. Mask your scent, she explained. Smells like rot, but beasts and scanners won't follow. They moved again, this time toward the mountain cliffs. Lyra led them to a high ridge where the trees grew so tight that not even light got through. At the top, a cave opened into the rock dot inside. Lyra lit a torch with a sparkstone. The walls of the cave were covered in drawings, strange symbols, alien faces, stars. Mason stared. You drew these? No, my people did. Long ago. What is this place? She turned to him. Temple. Before war, this was sacred. He touched one of the carvings. It showed a human figure, surrounded by lights, standing above kneeling aliens. What's this? Lyra hesitated. Old story. One day, a starfaller would come. Someone not born of our soil, someone different. He would not take, he would give. Mason stared at her. You think that's me? She looked away. I don't know. But you didn't use me. You didn't command, you gave me a name. He sat beside her. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this, he said. No one survives war by accident. You lived because you're strong. You helped me because you're kind. You followed me because your heart never gave up. Lyra looked at him, eyes shining. You speak like a god. I'm not, he said. I'm just a man who refuses to leave you behind. That night, while they slept, the recon ship returned. And this time, it didn't fly away. It landed. The sound of engines shook the trees. Dust and leaves flew everywhere as the recon ship landed in a small clearing at the base of the mountain. Lyra froze. Mason moved beside her, peering through the cracks in the stone wall of the cave. Two humans stepped out of the ship. Both wore black armor. One held a scanner. The other had a rifle. Mason whispered, "They're search team, not rescue." "That's military gear." Lyra didn't blink. "I know them." "You do?" "They were there when I was traded." Mason's grip on his cane tightened. The one with the scanner waved the device back and forth. A light beeped. He turned toward the cliff, toward the cave. "They found us," Mason said. "No," Lyra whispered. "They only found a heat source." She grabbed a pile of leaves and threw them over the fire. Smoke poured upward. "Come," she said. "Follow me." She led him deeper into the cave, where a narrow tunnel waited. It was dark, tight, and smelled like damp stone. "Where does it lead?" "Down to the lower tunnels. I used them to escape before." They climbed down as the footsteps of the soldiers echoed above. Mason could hear one of them speaking into a CUM unit. "Heat trace confirmed. Organic signs, unknown origin. Proceeding." They moved carefully through the tunnel. Mason's leg burned with each step, but he said nothing. Lyra was quiet, focused. In her hand she held a thin blade made from bone. "Do you think they'll leave?" he asked. "No," she said. "They always take." After an hour of crawling, they reached a lower chamber. It was empty, except for a broken shrine. Lyra sat down beside it, breathing hard. Mason followed and sat beside her. "What now?" he asked. "They will search every tunnel. If we keep running, they follow." Mason looked at her. "Then we fight." She turned sharply. "Fight? You are hurt." "I have you," he said. "And I won't let them take you. Not again." Lyra stared at him like he had said something impossible. "No one ever fought for me," she whispered. "Well," he said, "they're about to see something new." Suddenly, voices echoed down the tunnel. "They're in the shrine tunnel. This way." Lyra stood. "We must move." "No," Mason said. "We make a stand here," she blinked. "Are you sure?" He nodded. "You said this place was sacred. Then let's make it matter." Lyra's hands shook as she pulled out her old blade. "It is not sharp, not strong." "It's enough," he said. "So are you." They moved to the sides of the chamber. Mason hid behind a pillar. Lyra crouched. In the dark near the broken shrine, footsteps came closer. The first soldier entered, gun raised. His armor was scratched. He moved like a hunter. Behind him, the second one scanned the room. "I see nothing," he said. But before he could step further, Lyra sprang from the dark. She moved like a shadow, slashing low. Her blade cut the back of his leg. The man shouted and fell. Mason swung his cane, smashing it into the other soldier's shoulder. The man staggered. Mason struck again, harder. The soldier fell. Lyra grabbed Mason's hand. "Run!" They didn't wait. They ran through the side tunnel as the second soldier fired behind them, missing wide as they escaped into the light again. Mason gasped for air. Lyra grabbed a branch and jammed it into the tunnel mouth, blocking it with rocks and dirt. They kept moving until the forest swallowed them again. When they finally stopped, Mason collapsed under a thick tree. "I can't believe we did that," he said, panting. Lyra sat beside him. "You fought for me," he nodded, "and I'd do it again." She touched his hand. "Then I will never leave you." In the silence that followed, Mason looked up at the sky. It was turning dark. Stars appeared, slow and quiet. Lyra rested her head on his shoulder. For the first time in weeks, Mason felt peace. But deep inside, he knew more soldiers would come, and next time, they would bring more than scanners. Mason woke before sunrise. The air was cool. The forest was quiet, almost too quiet. Lyra sat beside the small fire, sharpening her blade with a flat stone. She wasn't smiling. "Did you sleep?" he asked. She shook her head. "Not safe yet." He sat up slowly. His legs still hurt, but he could stand now without help. "We've been running for days. They'll stop soon." "No," she said softly. "They don't stop." Mason looked around. The trees were thick, the ground soft with moss and roots. They were deeper in the wild now than ever before. Even the animals avoided this place. "Lyra," he said, "we can't keep running forever." She turned toward him. Her eyes were tired but bright. "I know, that is why I called them." He froze. "What?" "I used the beacon from their soldier. I activated it. I sent the signal." Mason stood. "You brought them here?" She nodded. "Yes. Why would you do that?" "Because I'm done hiding," she said. "They hunt us like prey. I want them to see me, to know me, not as a slave, not as something traded. I want them to see me as yours." Mason's mouth opened, but no words came. "I do not mean property," she added. "I mean bonded, protected, chosen. You gave me a name, a future. I will show them I belong to something more than fear." He took a breath. "They'll bring more soldiers." "Yes, they'll come armed." "I know." "Then we fight." He sighed. Lyra nodded. Together. They spent the day preparing. Lyra dug pit traps and covered them with branches. Mason made sharpened stakes from broken trees. They lined the ground with crushed roots that would make the air heavy and confuse. Scanners. The shrine cave would be their last stand. As the sun dropped, the beacon lit up, flashing red. A reply signal. "They're coming," she said. "How long?" "Hours." Mason checked the traps. His heart pounded. It felt like madness, 2 people against trained soldiers. But when he looked at Lyra, he didn't see a helpless girl anymore. He saw a warrior. That night rain fell again. Soft, steady. They sat beside each other under the thick branches. "Do you miss them?" Mason asked. "Your sisters?" Lyra was silent for a while. "No," she finally said. "They left me and never looked back." He nodded. "I lost people. 2, my unit, my crew, all gone. But I found you," she said, "and I found you." When morning came, the ship arrived. Louder, bigger. Not just a recon craft. This was a full gunship. It landed hard, blowing wind through the trees. Light shined into the forest. Soldiers moved in formation, 5 of them this time. All armed. Mason and Lyra crouched behind a stone ridge. "Now?" she asked. "Now," he said. The first trap snapped shut. 1 soldier fell, screaming as a pit swallowed him. The others scattered, confused. Lyra threw smoke dust into the air. It exploded in a white flash. Mason rushed out, swinging a sharpened staff. He struck 1 soldier's side, knocking him down. Lyra moved fast, almost too fast to follow. She slashed low, slicing armor. One of the soldiers shouted, "Target confirmed." "It's the escaped girl." Mason grabbed a stun grenade from the fallen man's belt and tossed it. The blast sent 2 more soldiers stumbling. But then, a shot rang out. Mason fell to the ground. Pain tore through his shoulder. Blood soaked his sleeve. Lyra screamed. She ran toward him, eyes wild. She knelt beside him, grabbed his hand. "You stay," she said. "Stay awake." "I'm fine," he lied. She stood and turned, facing the last soldier. He aimed at her. She didn't flinch. "I am not yours," she said. The soldier fired, but the shot missed, because Mason had raised his broken cane and thrown it like a spear. It hit the man's hand, just enough to knock his aim off. Lyra charged. One final move. One scream. One blade strike, and it was over. She dropped the weapon, fell to her knees beside Mason. "Are you hurt bad?" she asked, voice breaking. He smiled through the pain. "I've had worse." She touched his face. "You fought for me. And you fought for both of us." She leaned down, pressed her forehead to his. "I am yours," she whispered. "By choice, not by trade." And as the rain washed the blood from the ground, the last of the soldiers lay still. Together, they had survived. But Mason knew something else now. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about building something new from the ruins. Mason sat at the edge of the broken ridge, staring into the forest. His shoulder was bandaged with strips of Lyra's old cloth and wrapped with crushed leaves to stop the bleeding. The pain was still there, but it didn't matter anymore. They had won. Behind him, the wreckage of the gunship smoldered. Smoke rose into the quiet sky. No more soldiers. No more scanners. The forest was still again. Lyra walked up beside him, carrying a small basket made of bark and vines. Inside were fruits, nuts, and soft white roots. She placed it beside him without a word. "You didn't have to go alone," he said. She smiled. "Slightly. I'm fast. You needed rest." He nodded. "Thanks." She sat beside him, close. Her shoulder touched his. She looked out across the trees, her eyes calm. "They won't come again," she said. "You sure?" "They sent 5. And we sent them back in pieces. Others will see the signal, but they'll think twice." He looked down at his bandaged arm. "I'm not what they expected." "No," she said. "You're more." Mason laughed quietly. "You still think I'm some kind of god?" "No," she said softly. "Not a god, but something just as rare." He turned toward her. "A good man." Mason looked away, his throat tight. He hadn't been called that in a long time. Lyra pulled something from her pouch. A small carved charm, shaped like a star. She held it out to him. "What is it?" "Promise mark," she said. "My people used to give it to someone they chose, not as a master. As a bond, 2 souls, 1 path." He stared at it, then took it slowly. It was warm from her hand. "What happens now?" he asked. Lyra looked around the forest. "We rebuild. This land is still alive. We plant, we grow, we protect it. Together." He nodded. "What about others? Your sisters? The ones who left you?" "They made their choice. I've made mine." "You don't want revenge?" She shook her head. "No, I want peace." "And you?" He smiled. "Then we'll make something new here. Just us." She tilted her head. "Maybe not just us." Mason raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Lyra stood and turned toward the trees. From the shadows, small figures stepped out quietly, slowly. Alien girls. 4 of them. Thin, dirty. Scared, no weapons. Just wide eyes and bare feet. Lyra raised her hand. "They followed my signal," she said. "They were left behind too." Mason stood. The girls stared at him with fear at first, then surprise. One of them knelt. Lyra stopped her. "No kneeling," she said. "He is not your master. He is your shield." Mason stepped forward. "You're safe now. No one owns you. No one commands you." The girls looked at each other, then at Lyra. "You protect us?" One asked in a tiny voice. He nodded. "We all protect each other now." As the sun rose higher, light poured through the trees. Warm and golden, Lyra stood at his side. Her voice was clear. From today, we are not broken. We are not traded. We are not slaves. We are family. And so it began. A new life, built on the ashes of war. A hidden village deep in the forest. A small fire, growing stronger each day. And at its center one human who chose not to leave. And one alien girl who chose to stay. Together, they were no longer alone. They were everything.